Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm going to do something that I don't do very often here. I'm going to explain to you why I invest in what I invest in digital assets and in blockchain related private equity. And I'm going to just carry you through. I mean, I've been here and a lot of this stuff I just bumped into. But there's a theme to all of my reasoning of why I'm invested. I mean, I'm invested in XRP for all the reasons you've heard me talk about for 3 years. But in the course of that journey and in the course of learning about Ripple and XRP, I've bumped into a lot of different characters. But there's one person in particular that has fascinated me the most, and that's Greg Kidd. And that's at the core of the reason I invest in a lot of the things that I invest in. And when you put it all together and you understand exactly what my thinking is on all this, I think you'll draw the same conclusion. And Greg Kidd is the reason for many of the, and I'm not saying Greg Kidd tells me to invest in anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when Greg Kidd speaks, I listen, and I've bought a lot of things just based on listening and paying attention to some of the things that are going on and some of the things that Greg Kidd says. Now I'm going to show you why I listen so closely. This is an article you're looking at from the New Yorker. It's called Two-Hit Wonder. Jack Dorsey of Twitter is now making big money at Square and is out to prove that he's more than a lucky man. This is at the core of what I'm talking about. I don't really think that luck factors into it. I think some of these people show up in all the right places for a reason. And I'm going to show you, if I can get back to square one here. Let's see. I just did a search on this, all the places where Greg Kidd is mentioned, and you may not have heard some of this, so I'll read some of it to you. This is about Jack Dorsey and how he knows Greg Kidd. Searching for a new direction for the company, Williams declared a series of hackathons. The programmers could work on anything they wanted in the hope that Odeo might find a direction. Dorsey had never stopped to think about mapping program he had written, the one with people missing from it at various times. I started at the wrong place. Let me go back up here. I'm sorry. Read the wrong part. Let me just do a Kidd search again. Okay, right here. In 1995, Dorsey enrolled in University of Missouri at Rolla, where he majored in computer science and math. But the practical had always interested him more than the theoretical, the sociological more than the technological. I wanted to build more instead of learn more. He still worked anyway. So one day during his junior year, he was surfing the internet and came across the website of Dispatch Management Services, which managed bicycle messengers in New York. He hacked into this computer network to see who ran it. You have a hole in your software, he recalls telling Greg Kidd, the company chairman. Kidd wanted to hire him and asked Dorsey if it would be okay for him to leave school. I was worried about his mother, Kidd remembers. Dorsey replied that the school would be okay, So Kidd offered to let him live in one of the two properties that the company leased, a house in Great Neck or an apartment on John Street in Manhattan. Okay, so one thing leads to another. They eventually take this company, this bike messenger company, public, and it's in the 95, 96, somewhere in there. Okay, and then Dorsey went on to do some other things. And then it gets back to this part. Not wanting to return to the grind of daily programming, he agreed to look after Kidd's daughter in exchange for room and board. He moved into a shed behind Kidd's house on the Berkeley-Oakland border. Babysitting was an unlikely job, and it goes on. So these guys get to know each other. Greg Kidd eventually is one of the first people to fund Twitter. Funds Twitter, and then they turn around and fund Square together as well. But this guy says, while looking after Greg Kidd's daughter, he had designed a program that told users of Google who else was searching for the same thing and allowed them to communicate with one another. So this is literally the formation of Twitter that they're going through, okay? And these guys just happen to be there. Well, so now I've shown you this before, but this is Greg Kidd's resume, because mama didn't raise a dummy here, folks. And I want you to just look at this. So right now he's at Global ID, but back then, the first thing that catches my attention is this is the first guy I've ever seen who has not one, not two, not three, but 4 Ivy League educations: Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Brown. Okay. Then he, and up here is when he's at Booz Hamilton for 6 years. Then he goes and he forms this company that Jack Dorsey was involved in. This is the dispatch management services that they took public and Jack Dorsey was a part of. Then he goes, this is what I find interesting. So now, through this going public, I'm assuming he got rich. Then he goes to why would you go to the Federal Reserve Board after you get rich? That doesn't make any sense to me, first of all. And then you go to a consultant, Promontory, and I think he said that he moonlit at Promontory Financial Group. This company is known as a shadow regulator, whatever that is. Then after he's already rich, remember that. And somewhere in here he takes Twitter public, and he also, I think, is involved in taking Square public, I think it's public. Anyway, so then later on, after you've got all this wealth, then you go and you, quote, get a job. And he said in several interviews he just wanted to get a job at Ripple. So here's a guy that just keeps popping up in the right place at the right time. Okay, now here's his bio. Greg Kidd founded and took public Dispatch Management Services, world's largest on-demand dispatch service. And then it goes on, as you go down here, it says, insights that led to DMSC alumni to start a wealth of new ventures, most noteworthy of which was Twitter and now Square by Jack Dorsey. Greg was an angel investor for Twitter's first funding round and serves as a risk advisor for Square. Greg is an active angel investor in other startups. Halo, they name a bunch of them here. Besides startups, he had time at Booz Allen, Promontory, Board of Governors. He was a senior analyst, Board of Governors for the Federal Reserve. Okay, and of course he leaves there and eventually ends up at Ripple. Okay, and this is Hard Yaka. This is his venture capital firm, and I'll come back to this in a little bit. But what also captured my attention was this interview with Thinking Crypto. Go give him a subscribe. He's going to be doing an interview soon with Brad Garlinghouse as well, I read. Give him a subscribe. He does a lot of really good interviews. So I want you to listen to this. All the things I just mentioned there are several coincidences in there. But see if you can find some more coincidences, just as an example of some of those coincidences. The fact that Greg Kidd was also one of the first guys to happen to discover Brian Armstrong and was one of the first investors in Coinbase.
East Coaster, big into bike racing, did a bunch of time at Booz Allen, the usual management consulting shtick that got me into financial services and telecoms, got me around the world to like Asia and resident of Australia, New Zealand. I did a startup of all things in the bike messenger space that was based on free call, kind of like Uber. Learned a lot about text messaging and payments. There's a young kid named Jack Dorsey that hacked into that. He was very interested in dispatch. We took that company public like 20 years ago. I did some time back in public policy at the Kennedy School, went to work for the Federal Reserve and the payments group. That's really where I got that regulatory background and a feeling of how Washington, D.C. worked, not just Silicon Valley and New York. I think Jack got a license as a massage therapist. He came back out to work with me, and he took those ideas that we had about text messaging just to bike messengers and built a little company called Twitter, which I was fortunate to be around when he was in the backyard. And then Square was a startup, another sort of an empowerment startup. Twitter was like the democratization of publishing. Square was the democratization of who could take a payment. I continued on in the regulatory world, working with Promontory and basically moonlighting with the startup space, and really got excited about who could actually issue money and create money. And that was the Satoshi revolution with Bitcoin. it wasn't really a company to join until Ripple came along, and I just wanted to. The guy really didn't care whether I was sweeping the streets or whatnot, but I did take that first role. I think it was the 10th person at Ripple to be the first risk officer and hired the first compliance officer. Have been interested in the whole space of innovation and financial services. My particular shtick is how do you basically do the reg tech to make this stuff compliant so it can actually scale in the world of law and order rather than just in the fringes of the crypto shadows. And have worked a lot in the identity space since, figured out how to make this something that would be empowering for people rather than a technology that gets captured by governments and corporations.
Sure. So a lot of investment background on your end, and tell us about Hard Yaka. You're the co-founder. How did that company come about?
So Hard Yaka is just the money that we've made from just kind of my Forrest Gump lifestyle of having been around at the beginning of Twitter and then Square and Ripple. I was like in a Y Combinator class. I met this guy at lunch named Brian Armstrong. I think I wrote, if not the first, one of the first.
Just happened to be at lunch and bumped into Brian Armstrong. Probably that's the Coinbase, the company that's going public this next month. That's valued at around $100 billion. Just happens to be where Coinbase is. Happens to be the 10th guy at Ripple because he begged him for a job. Remember, he just happened to be at a card game, and you heard about that. I'm telling you, folks, Mama did not raise a dummy. I pay close attention to everything that this guy says because I don't just think he's smart. I think that he is plugged in, and this is a just something that I do. And I'm going to show you some of the things I own as a result of that too. I'm going to finish this up a little bit more.
Coinbase, there was this guy, Ron Bennett, who had this concept of proof of stake, and that became Filecoin. So just was around for a bunch of the startups, just right place at the right time. And so some of the
just happens to be at the right place at the right time. And he just said, I've heard him in the past talk about Filecoin, and in regard to Filecoin, he said that he just happened to be in the room where that guy was holding a white paper. I think it was Filecoin he was talking about. It just happened to that guy just happened to be holding a white paper and not really know anybody or not have any venture capital or anything. And Greg Kidd's there to save the day. Now, either this guy's a genius and just happens to know where everything's going on, and maybe that's the secret sauce. Doesn't matter to me. I just pay attention to what the man says. And so let's go back. So as far as my investments, and I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you some of the things I own and why. Now you know why. First of all, I bought some Uphold private equity. I talk about Link2 all the time. Why did I buy Uphold private equity? Well, Greg Kidd is one of the largest investors in Uphold right here. Boom, right there. Coinbase, obviously, I don't have any private equity in that. I was a little late on that one. Ripple, he's Greg Kidd, has $1 billion XRP optioned. He told me that in an interview that you've probably seen. And then as you go down, he's invested in Hedera Hashgraph. So I own, I don't have a shot at the private equity right now, so I own some Hedera Hashgraph, their digital asset. Filecoin, he's an investor in the company and the I think the digital asset as well, so I own some of that. You can see how all this works. And then if you go to CoinMarketCap, well, also I forgot to mention he's one of the largest investors in Link2, which is democratizing private equity and giving access to people who haven't had access in the past. Link2 private equity. It's a $10K minimum investment on Link2. And by the way, this is one of my sponsors, and that's not why I'm talking about them here, but their platform, I've got links where you can download their stuff, or you can go to their website at linqto.com. And if you're an accredited investor, you can buy into these private equities at a minimum. The minimum buy is $10K. So if you want to buy if you wanted to just spend $10K, you could buy one for $10K. Anyway, so this is, and so that's why I'm an owner in Link2 shares. Okay, Greg Kidd's the biggest investor there. You saw on his website, he's an investor in Upgrade too. So now let's go back and look. We'll just scroll down this. So I'm in XRP. I was in that before Greg Kidd ever came along. But as you go down, Stellar, I've told you all the reasons I'm in that. But I'm in Filecoin because of Greg Kidd. I'm in VeChain because of I interviewed the CEO a while back, and I'm very impressed with him as well as their product. Solana is another one that Greg Kidd has brought up. I've heard him bring it up at least 3 or 4 times. He said that it was proof of history. It's the first digital asset that is a different system. The systems I'm aware of is proof of work, which is, of course, what Bitcoin and Ethereum are. And then you had proof of stake. Then you had consensus with Ripple. Okay. Then you, and now this is a new one, proof of history, which he says is a new type of, and I think the other day he said that it would be good for NFTs as well. So like I said, when Greg Kidd speaks, I listen. If I hear him say something more than once or twice, I am on it. And then as we go down, he did not recommend Algorand to me, but I do own some of that. I don't think I've mentioned all the ones that I own, but I just wanted to go over my thinking on a lot of this. But the thing that I'm doing right now is I'm splitting, trying to split have some in digital assets, some in the private equity. They call it picks and shovels. And so like here I've got some Ripple, some Upgrade, some Link to Uphold. I kind of try to stick to the blockchain oriented companies. But I'm interested in AI too. But I just wanted to do this video to just kind of give you the way that my thinking is on these things and kind of my thought patterns. You really, the smart way to do things, in my opinion, a lot of time is not try to reinvent the wheel and just find, they say to find a mentor when you're growing up, find a mentor, somebody that you can learn things from so that you don't have to learn all your lessons the hard way. Well, Greg Kidd is not my mentor. I don't know him well enough. I've talked to him a few times, but I can tell you this. If there's anybody that I want to mimic as far as their investing behaviors, this guy would be it in blockchain and digital assets. And so that's kind of what my philosophy is here and a lot of what I do. It's not all, I don't just only invest in what Greg Kidd says. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I pay attention. And there's other people that you could pay attention to as well, like Tim Draper's a VC and the different really smart guys that have been around. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that having a mentor or someone who just seems to pop up everywhere that money's being made sometimes is a good plan.